Up. We also have everyone on mute. With the number of people on this call, it would be very challenging to have the noise background as well as interruptions of questions. So I want to remind everybody, if you look at your screen, up in the top right-hand corner is a little bubble. That bubble, if you click on it, enables you to insert questions. Our goal throughout this whole morning is to take these questions. If time permits and if our speakers are willing and interested, they may address those questions. For any questions that do come up today that don't get answered directly, we will aggregate all of that information. We'll share it with the three departments. They in turn will answer the questions. We send an entire Q&A back out to everyone who has attended today and registered. That will also include a link to this presentation. So again, you're on mute. Questions go in the chat box. And with that, I would like to open up and introduce to you guys, with tremendous honor from Better Business Bureau, Maryland's Commerce Secretary, Kelly Schulz. Kelly Schulz has years of experience working in state government, in the private sector, and also important to all of us as a small business owner. She gets where we are. She spent 4 years representing Frederick County in the Maryland House of Delegates and took a particular interest in economic development and labor and employment issues. This served her well. In 2015, she became Maryland's Secretary of Labor and led the effort to dramatically increase the number of apprenticeships across Maryland, a program we too are so proud of her for bringing to Maryland. Under her leadership, that program grew up to 10,000 apprenticeships statewide, the highest level since 2008. About 16 months ago, she became Maryland's Secretary of Commerce and took the helm of the state's leading economic development agency. The department's mission is usually to help Maryland's business grow, thrive, and create good jobs for our residents. But with the onset of COVID-19 pandemic, the mission of the Department of Commerce has pivoted to sustaining Maryland's businesses and providing them with information and resources to help weather this crisis. So with that incredible introduction, and most importantly, with, again, such great honor, I'm pleased to welcome Maryland Commerce Secretary Kelly Schulz.
Great, thank you so much, Angie, and I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to your group. I will say that, first of all, this is, I think I'm on webinar conference call with business communities. I think we're totaling at about 61 or 62 today. And then I have 5 more later on today, because it's really, really important in order for the Department of Commerce and the administration in general to be able to reach out to the business community to let you know what's happening. But also as important to be able to answer questions of your members, because this is a very difficult time that we're going through. And, you know, I think today marks week number 6 since the governor had announced back on March 12th that our offices would be working remotely on the following day, on March 13th. And in many aspects, it feels like it was just yesterday because of how hard our team is working and the amazing work that's happening. And then part of it, I'm sure like many of you feel, it seems like it's been this way forever. And it's hard to remember where we were. But I think my goal today is to be able to make sure everybody knows that there is going to be a reopening, there is going to be a recovery, and we're actively planning for that right now. And it was very, very clear to me a few weeks ago after, you know, we came up from air trying to get an entire new data processing system put together, that the Department of Commerce has traditionally and has had our mission be that we are there to expand and to grow businesses and to attract new businesses and to be able to market the state in wonderful, beautiful ways. And all of that has kind of shifted. And now the Department of Commerce is in just trying to sustain and save and provide resources to those businesses that are currently here. And so it's a different path, but it's the same mission, and it is the business community. And I just want to make sure that everybody knows that we are definitely here to be able to provide assistance on many different levels. So today I wanted to just give you a brief update on what is happening with our COVID-19 emergency grants and loan programs. I'm sure everybody on this call knows that those applications went live on March 23rd when the governor announced them. Hard to believe it was a month ago. And we received total roughly more than 9,000 loan applications and more than 20,000 grant applications. We did close the application process on April 6th, but within the first 24 hours, we received thousands of applications, and we knew very, very quickly, actually within the first 48 hours, that we had to acquire a brand new database system in order for us to be able to process the thousands of applications that were coming in. And we also had to look at bringing in more staff. So as a reference, the Department of Commerce has just roughly a little over 200 employees. We've onboarded an additional almost 150 employees from other sister state agencies in order to be able to help to assist us with moving forward. For those businesses that have applied for one of these two programs, just want to let you know that we are working very, very diligently. It took us 2 weeks to get the system built. It's taken us 2 weeks to onboard all of the folks that we need in order to be able to continue to process at a faster rate. And we're working as quickly and as diligently as we can. We do have funds that are going out. They started going out over 2 weeks ago, but they're not going out at a very fast pace. But everybody is now fully trained and getting those grants out to the individual businesses first, and then the loans as well. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody heard that. Once in a while, I start to receive some good news from some wonderful businesses around the state, letting us know that they're all set and they got everything up and running, and they got checks deposited into their accounts. So that's kind of the good news that's there. Just as just a picture that you can kind of look at and see where we have all of our volunteers. We currently have 65 additional volunteers that are at that very beginning stage, at that review stage from other agencies. That's kind of the least complicated of the processes. We added an additional 11 people to help to resolve the issues of the submissions. I'll say that there has been thousands of submissions that we have received that had to go through resolution because there has been information that has been missing from the applications. And then we've added 24 finance specialists, 34 document specialists, and we're working on getting some more accounting folks for the check processing at that point in time. But if somebody's application says that it's in review, I just want to be very clear that in review process, if they go onto the one-stop site, that means that the process is at the very beginning stage. So it is being reviewed, or it is in the queue to be reviewed. So some people, well, actually lots of people have reached out and said, my application has been in review, and how long does it take to review it? And I just want you to know that means that those applications are at that first part of the phase. And then once the reviewer gets through their queue and starts putting them forward, then it will go on to the next step of the process. Some people think that it's been lost. It has not been lost. It's in there. It's in the system. If it goes to resolution, then one of our wonderful staff will be able to make sure that they can reach out and update any type of financial information or other information that might be there, that they might need in order to be able to complete that for the applicant. If they have additional questions, I want everybody to know that they can feel free to contact our office at secretary.commerce@maryland.gov. We also have teams of people that are working on that email inbox to be able to make sure that we can address the questions, whether it relates to the Department of Commerce ourselves or one of our sister agencies that our business community works with. We do have those representatives from those agencies working with us as well in order to be able to provide that information. Another very popular question that people ask is, when is the Department of Commerce going to run out of funds? I will say that with the thousands of applications that we have, it's pretty much understood by us that there will be a period of time where the funds will run out. The one reason we left our applications open for as long as we did was in order to be able to get the process in a very fast-moving, functioning, efficient way, so that if or when we receive additional federal funds to go towards these programs, that we can continue to process them in the fastest way possible. So that's our hope. We don't know if we'll be getting money to put into that fund again from the Federal CARES Act money, but we are definitely going to be able to look at that. The other program that we have open that came on the March 23rd announcement was our manufacturing incentive program, and that's supporting our personal protection equipment needs and the other critical infrastructure and the needs that have been set forth by Maryland Emergency Management Agency as well as the Department of Health, and what they can do in order to be able to provide these desperately needed equipment for hospitals, first responders, et cetera. So that's $5 million that has gone into this fund in order to incentivize our state's manufacturers to produce the PPE, such as face masks or ventilators or any other type of equipment that pops up. Right now, the big need is gowns. So that has gowns for hospitals, for medical professionals, so that we can procure some of that. After receiving hundreds of applications, we've narrowed it down and we've started distributing some of those funds. And what the funds do is it helps to provide additional funding for those manufacturers who can quickly be able to retool their current systems, provide new equipment up to $100,000 the state will pay for new equipment, or possibly hiring additional employees or training those additional employees on a new process in order to be able to switch their manufacturing to one of these critical needs. We've had some great success stories. The first approved grant was from Nation's Photo Lab. They're usually a photography laboratory company, as the name might suggest, but they were approved by the White House Task Force to produce a non-surgical face shield that can be used in conjunction with a mask. So they're quickly retooling their production facility to produce 100,000 of these face shields. Another approved company is DVF Corporation in Washington County. There is Awesome Ninja Labs in Baltimore City, NRL and Associates, which is a Queen Anne's company. And our team continues to approve manufacturers as we speak in order to be able to get more Maryland manufacturers up and running in this process. I'll say many of us have watched the news and we've seen how innovative some of our other businesses have been, like the craft brewers and distillers who switched from making alcohol for consumption to making alcohol for hand sanitizers. And then other crafters are working on frantically sewing masks and 3D printing face shields, components, right from their homes. And that's been really nice to be able to see the innovation that's coming from Maryland businesses. So now what are we doing about recovery? So Governor Hogan will be unveiling his Maryland Strong Roadmap to Recovery later this week. Tomorrow is what I believe it is. And when we talk about how to get to recovery, last week the governor talked about the 4 building blocks. And those building blocks include expanding testing capacity, increasing hospital surge capacity, ramping up supply of PPE, and building a robust contact tracing operation. So we're building off of these needs, and I believe yesterday there was great news about our progress in many of these areas. And we're working with those building blocks to talk about what recovery means to the business community as well. So we formed a series of task forces. Our first task force that we formed was the Tourism Recovery Task Force, which bringing together tourism and tourism-related industry organizations, business leaders, partner organizations, and really kind of broke that down into several different areas, whether it be restaurants and bars, accommodations, attractions, destinations, and retail. So the list goes on, and we have individual groups that are working really hard in order to be able to come up with what we think is going to be great guidelines for those specific industries, and identifying what those critical steps are that they're going to need to be able to take. And so that could be working with local health officials on trying to get approvals for reoccupancy, rehiring the local workforce, and what does retailers maybe need to do, and when do they need to start restocking their goods and perhaps relaunching services at a pace that's going to be a phased-in approach so that Maryland can reopen smartly. With that, we've expanded those task forces to other industry groups as well. We have a manufacturing industry group. We have a professional services group. We have a sports group. We have a construction and development group. We have personal services, one-on-one and small business group. So these are just some of the areas where the Department of Commerce has worked to bring the business community together so that they can be a part of the conversation for when we do open, we can open smartly and we can open quickly because we will already have answered many of those questions that we need to answer in order to be able to move forward. And so I wanted to leave a little bit of time for questions, but I really appreciate seriously this opportunity to be here, and let me know what I can do to be a further assistance.
Secretary Schulz, thank you so much for that, and it's great news about the task force. Those are things that really perk us all up so that we are indeed prepared. We do have a few questions, and so first of all, back to the Maryland specific grants. There was a very specific question about is there, in going through the applications, is there a priority? Do you prioritize one group gets reviewed and addressed before another, and are they simply in the order in which they're received?
It's the latter. It is in the order that they were received, where they get the initial review, with the understanding that if they go to resolution, that might take a couple of extra days and touch points on that, because there is something missing that needs to be fixed within the application.
Thank you. Again, it's the order that they were received. So thank you so much. Related to that, we have a question with regards to how would we know if a loan has gone to resolution due to missing documents? How are you communicating with that business owner?
Our team is sending them emails, so whatever email would have been placed with the application, that would be their main point of contact.
Great. That's a good thing to know, especially from a BBB's perspective, who we're always talking about spoofing phone numbers and fake emails. So thank you for that. We'll be sure to include that in our conversation points as well. Now, there's a couple of questions related to the EIDL. So I have two of them. So let me begin with this one. Are Maryland grants and emergency relief loan funds coordinated with EIDL or PPP federal programs?
Our grants were posted before the federal government had passed the CARES Act. So we did not make our grants susceptible to review of EIDL or the SBA PPP and any of that. So you did not have to say whether or not you were qualified for any of the others. In fact, I think our hope was that because the federal government may have more funds than the states would have, that they could have something from the state that could help to supplement what they might be getting from the federal government.
Okay, so the question continues, and just to make sure, so companies right now are allowed or permitted to have maybe apply for federal assistance and relief along with Maryland relief. I think people are looking for clarification. Do they have to choose the Maryland relief loan, or could they also apply for PPP or some other federal program?
they are not restricted from applying to any of the other programs. So if you apply, you are not kicked out. Yeah.
All right, just making sure, because there was a common theme in those questions. So there is a question with regards to the EIDL program. I assume you'd like us to maybe wait till the SBA, or do you want to try to address any EIDL question?
I think the SBA probably has a better handle on that.
I just wanted to offer.
We've had our role with the federal programs has been trying to help to assist those business owners get information on them and to kind of spearhead any troubles that they might have as far as the customer service support. But that's probably the extent of what we've been able to help.
It looks like that's the extent of our questions that are specific to Maryland's relief programs. And again, I cannot thank you enough for taking the time to give us and our small businesses today. It means a lot to us. I know you're incredibly busy. I know the demands are tremendous. I know your team and the state workers across the state are working diligently to do indeed get us back open in a safe way. So you have our gratitude as well for all the work you are all doing.
Well, thank you very much. And I appreciate your partnership as always. And if there's anything that we can do in the future, please don't hesitate to reach out to us.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All right. Have a safe day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Right, next, we're just going to keep going along. Next, I know this is a topic a lot of business owners, including myself, very interested to hear and want to have discussion around. So let me introduce to you our next speakers. We are honored to have today from Maryland's Department of Labor, Michael Harrison. Michael's been in the Department of Labor as the policy director since 2015 and has been involved in all major policy issues, including Maryland's Paid Sick Leave Act, minimum wage, apprenticeships, and now COVID-19 related to unemployment insurance benefits. He received a master's in public policy at Hopkins in 2004 and worked in Maryland governmental affairs for close to 15 years since then. And our second speaker, our partner in partnership with Maryland's Department of Labor, we have Andrew Fulgeniti. He joined the Department of Labor in December of 2019, so he's a newbie there, and has been handling government affairs and policy related matters for the department. Prior to Labor, Andrew spent 5 years as Chief of Staff in the Maryland General Assembly, and he is a graduate of Towson University, yay, and Calvert County, Maryland, and a Calvert County, Maryland resident. So thank you, Michael. Thank you, Andrew, so much for being with us here today. And at this time, we're going to turn the program over to you.
Great, thank you. Just want to make sure you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, yeah, I'm here to talk about some of the unemployment benefits that the state is offering, especially for businesses, trying to promote some of the programs that we think can significantly help businesses recover from being closed for so long. But quickly, Thursday mornings, the recent unemployment figures come out. Not sure if you saw the latest news, but this most recent week, we've had 47,000 Marylanders file for unemployment benefits, bringing the total to 343,000 since the pandemic began. The 47,000 is a reduction from the previous week's total of 61,000. So the 343 is more unemployment applicants that we've had in 2009 and probably 2019 and probably 2018 combined. We are working to address this significant influx. I know we're partnered with a vendor to bring on a couple hundred additional call center employees to handle the call volume. We're moving staff around from other agencies within the department as well as other agencies outside of government. We're getting them trained on how to take a claim and answer questions. I know not getting into the phone log to answer questions is one of the biggest complaints that we've been getting that we're trying to address as quickly as we can. We've also updated our website with a lot of new information. The website is mdunemployment.com. We have several frequently asked questions and a lot of information on filing a claim and information for businesses. I'd encourage everybody to check that out. And also, a few moments ago, we emailed over 100,000 independent contractors, sole proprietors, gig economy workers, all the people who were not eligible for unemployment benefits historically, but who are eligible now under the federal CARES Act legislation. On our website, we had a box to sign up on for your email to be notified when that application will be available. And so the email that went out this morning to over 100,000 people said that that application will be available tomorrow morning. That's Friday morning around 7 a.m. So anyone who's an independent contractor, all those sole proprietors, you can now apply online. There will be information on the website posted soon, along with some frequently asked questions on documents that you will need. So hopefully you can spend the next 24 hours gathering some of that information and be ready to apply. We do realize that at 7 a.m. we're going to have 100,000 sole proprietors and independent contractors applying. We've worked with our vendor. We have assurances that the system is going to be able to handle the traffic. Unlike our normal unemployment application, this one is a cloud-based system, and it's able to handle all the expected volume. So we don't expect any problems. So we'd encourage everybody to apply tomorrow morning. This also includes all the individuals who've had more than 3 jobs who were told they had to call to file a claim. They can now use this new online application that's being launched tomorrow. So I can happy to take some questions on that later. Also want to talk about the WorkShare program that the state has. WorkShare it's a layoff aversion program for employers. You can sign up for unemployment benefits if the employer reduces wages because of the pandemic between a minimum of 20% up to 50% for their employees. That wage will be offset by partial unemployment benefits. So if an employer's wages, if employees' wages are reduced by 50%, they could receive up to 50% of the state maximum weekly benefits, which are $430 a week, plus the additional $600 a week offered through the federal CARES Act. The $600 a week is good through July 31st. And so this is a great program that we're trying to get out there to let employers know is when you start coming back into business and you're not going to have as much demand initially, but you want to bring staff back on. As long as you have staff on payroll working at a reduced wage, we'd encourage you to sign up for the WorkShare program to have those employees' wages offset. One of the benefits of this that we're also trying to get out there is it will not affect the employer tax rates. The WorkShare program is 100% federally funded. So one of the questions we get is why not just have the employees sign up for partial unemployment benefits? Well, that would go against the employer's tax history and tax rates. But if you sign up for WorkShare, the employees can receive partial benefits and it will not affect the business tax rates. Speaking of which, no business will receive an unemployment tax increase in 2020. I know we've received a lot of questions about that, but even the employers who've had to lay off employees because of the pandemic, you will not receive tax increases in 2020. One of the other questions we're getting a lot is some employers are reporting that employees are making more on unemployment than their wages, and they don't want to come back to work. We've heard from several businesses, especially on the Eastern Shore, especially that want to come back, want to bring back employees, want to start planning, but employees have been getting unemployment and they don't want to come back as long as their benefits more. The U.S. Department of Labor has issued guidance recently that says if the employer offers the employee suitable employment and that employee refuses to return to work, that employee would not be eligible for unemployment insurance. So the employer would contact our office and let us know what's going on, and we would contact that employee and let them know that they would not be eligible for unemployment benefits. So with that, I think that covers what I wanted to talk about. I'm happy to get to some questions. And if Andrew has any other information to add, thank you.
Right this minute, that we do not have any questions in our chat box. So I want to remind everybody, if you do have a question before, because we do have, these experts on unemployment, be sure and go up to the chat box and type in a question. But Michael, right now we don't have any questions. So does Andrew have anything he'd like to add to this? Oh, wait. Oh, Clay, I think, what are you doing? Did you just show me a question?
No, I was going to access my email to see if we had any emails, questions emailed to us, but
Yeah, do
I do that on my phone.
Okay.
We did have some questions emailed that I sent over to both you, Angie and Clay, as well as to Andrew last evening.
All right, let me look at these questions really quick. SBA.
To bottom of the document.
Department
And
of
the chat box.
Okay. Yes, we have this one. All right, here is a very specific question with regards to unemployment. I have an employee who is not working because his wife is a current cancer patient and he does not want to risk getting infection. He is a service plumber who typically works in the homes of our customers. Can his lost wages be covered by any of the programs?
Well, yes, if he's a sole proprietor or independent contractor, he would be able to apply for the federal benefits starting tomorrow. Everyone would receive, he can report reduced wages or reduced hours because of his circumstance, going back as early as he can to the start of the pandemic, and he would receive retroactive benefits. But he would have to put that on the application and document that, and he would be eligible for benefits starting tomorrow.
Michael, if he is not a sole proprietor, but is simply an employee of a company as a plumber, would he still qualify even if he's not an owner?
Yes, he could be eligible for partial unemployment benefits. I would encourage him just to apply for benefits, and that would be worked out. One of the expansion requirements of unemployment was anyone who could not work because a family member, again, they had to stay at home to take care of a family member.
Okay.
So that is an eligible cause. For people receiving partial unemployment and wages, if wages are more than $430 a week, which is a weekly maximum benefit, they would not be eligible for unemployment benefits.
If restate that one more time, because that is the next question. So would you restate that one more time, Michael?
Right. If you are receiving unemployment benefits and working part-time and reporting your wages on the weekly certifications that are required. And if you're receiving partial unemployment benefits, if you report more than 430 a week in wages, that's the weekly maximum benefit. So you would be receiving a portion of that. But if your wages are more than 430 a week, you would not be eligible for unemployment for that week.
Thank you. Yeah, this next question's, I'm going to read it to you and see if this works. If an employee's pay has been cut and their 50% pay is more than the maximum $430 for unemployment, with the additional $600 the federal government is adding, will they be able to collect the difference of the maximum plus the $600 and their gross pay?
Well, as long as their weekly earnings are less than
Okay.
430, they would
Yep.
be eligible. But if weekly earnings are more than that, they're not eligible, not even for the 600 bump up bonus a week.
All right. And it looks like those are the only remaining questions that we have.
Looks like we've got in the chat box.
Oh, in the chat box, the ones, maybe my chat box isn't updated because these have already been answered, I think. But if you see one there to answer, please do. I just may be missing it.
One is about the email that just went out about the pandemic unemployment assistance applications starting tomorrow. We need to provide supporting documents. How do we do that if we are sole proprietors who haven't taken formal payroll, but rather only took distributions as needed? We are finalizing some frequently asked questions on the application that's being launched tomorrow. I think a lot of that is going to address the documentation that's required. And from beyond what's in that email right now, I don't know specifically what we are going to accept or what's eligible. It's my understanding that it's going to be very broad in what is acceptable, but we're going to have to somehow verify lost wages because of the virus. So any information you can collect or present that demonstrates that would be acceptable. And if a person has reduced hours on the work share, do they automatically get the federal 600? Yes. If you're on work share, receiving unemployment, everyone automatically gets 600 additional bump up. How would they apply for the federal unemployment? The employer has to apply for the work share program. We are accepting all applications. Our team will work with all the employers to make sure all those applications are accepted. So you just have to apply. There's about a week to 10-day turnaround right now for those applications. And then the employees would file for benefits. Employees on the work share would file for those benefits, just like everybody else. And the instructions would be worked out through the application process. It states that payments will be retroactive to earliest date of eligibility. How is that date determined? It'll likely be the start of the pandemic when the state emergency was declared, or the effective date of the CARES Act, which was March 29th, I believe, when that $600 went into effect. So it can't be earlier than that. And if it's later than that, I think you just have to show evidence of lost wages. For confirmation, if a position has been eliminated and that employee receives severance, Severance is taken into account when determining unemployment benefits. A person would apply and note that severance payment, and unemployment benefits would be adjusted accordingly based on the amount of the severance. It would not preclude unemployment benefits, but it does count against unemployment benefits. You can't receive severance pay and unemployment benefits at the same time. So I think that's all the questions I see in the chat box, if there's any more.
Just giving a pause in case anybody, based on your answers, wanted to go ahead and jump in. All right. Well, thank you, Michael. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you for sitting in as well. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You know, I know this is a hot topic for all of us as we try to take care not only of ourselves, but the very people who are so committed to our businesses. So thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Great, my pleasure.
All right. And be safe. Take care of yourself and keep working hard for us.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right, guys, we are going to move on to our last presenter. I am so excited to have Steve Umberger. He's a district director for the SBA. And I know you have a ton of questions for him with all the news this week, but also most importantly, just to be able to get down to some really specifics with all the confusion. And even in the chat box, some of the first questions we had were EIDL questions. So I want to thank everybody for staying with us. And I would love to jump in to Steve Umberger. Steve's the district director of SBA Baltimore District Office, responsible for the delivery and management of the U.S. Small Business Administration's financial, business development, and government contracting programs throughout the state of Maryland, with the exception of Prince George's and Montgomery. Same thing for us. Those two counties aren't with us either as a BBB Greater Maryland. Under his leadership, the Baltimore District Office has achieved record-setting loan numbers. Hooray! Most recently in fiscal year 2019, assisting over 600 Maryland entrepreneurs receive financial assistance valued at $217 million. So Steve, bring us goodwill, good cheer, and a lot of good information on the SBA. And thank you for joining BBB this morning.
Let's see if I can unmute everybody here. It might work to unmute his mic as well. All right, did that work?
Be patient. We're trying to find you.
Okay, you can hear me, right? There's a lot of background noise now.
I can hear you now. I see the caller number. Looks like one of the callers. All right, let's see. Go ahead and give me some feedback.
I called in on the phone. Should I unmute and mute everybody else, or how do you want to?
Yeah, I'm going to identify you here. You're caller number 12, and I'm going to make sure that when I mute everybody, you're not muted. All right, 1 second. And all right, Stephen, see if that worked.
Hello?
There we go. I can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we're all set.
Okay. Everyone can hear. Great. Thank you, Angie. Great to be here. Appreciate this chance to come on and talk a little bit about where we were, where we are, and where we will be as far as SBA and the guidance that we're working so hard to provide and the support that we're working hard to provide. We all know how difficult a time this is for everyone, and never have we experienced the magnitude of the disaster, we'll call it. And I just want you all to know that we're working tirelessly here in the Baltimore district to assist as many small businesses as we can who are seeking economic injury assistance. We've received, and I'd have to talk about the nationwide response, we've received an unprecedented volume of applications for each of the assistance programs that are available through the CARES Act. You most likely heard that funds were exhausted from the initial phase of for our economic injury disaster loans, EIDL, and the Paycheck Protection Program. So last week, funds were used up from the initial authorization, and we expect any time now, it could be as soon as today, that Congress will pass additional funding, and we certainly look forward to the President signing on that. But today, I just want to give you a little snapshot of what's been accomplished here in our district and in Maryland. I brought down the Maryland numbers so that everyone could hear what kind of an impact the CARES Act and the two programs have had so far. With respect to the Paycheck Protection Program, SBA processed 14 years worth of loans in just 2 weeks. As of last Thursday, April 16th, when the appropriations lapsed, as I mentioned, in Maryland alone, SBA had authorized 26,068 loans valued at a total of over $6.5 billion. Put that into a little bit in perspective, Angie, you mentioned earlier, last year in our district, we had 600 loans for $217 million. Now, even though those are record numbers for our district in any given year, when we look at the volume of what's happened as a result of the CARES Act and the lenders and others, SBA in particular, through the EIDL, it's significant so far, but not enough, obviously. Despite the lapse in funding, we've made great strides over the past 2 weeks. We've created new partnerships with several new lenders, several new credit unions, other online lenders that traditionally haven't participated in SBA guaranteed lending. In addition to the larger national and regional banks, many local community banks rose to the occasion and rallied to support our local small businesses and entrepreneurs. Over 160 individual lenders approved loans, paycheck protection loans in Maryland. So a little bit about where do we go from here. Like I said, we're anxiously awaiting a round of appropriations from Congress. The Senate passed the bill. It's with the House. We expect to have that passed today. I can only guess. I can only speculate on when that will happen, whether it be this afternoon, tonight, or tomorrow. We'd hope for today. But no later than week's end, we should have an additional roughly $250 to $300 billion in support for the Paycheck Protection Program and a couple other small things that are in there. So until it's finalized, can only speculate in generalities, but it's going to be significant. Currently, applications are closed, so you need to, when it comes to EIDL, you're going to want to keep an eye on that legislation when it passes. As soon as it passes, then the portal for applications will reopen, and be in touch with your lenders constantly if you're not already on paycheck protection loans, and make sure that they're in a position and ready to submit your application when the time comes. I'm going to recap a little bit for anybody that may not be familiar with both of those programs a little more in detail. So as far as economic injury disaster loan EIDL, the loans can be used to pay fixed expenses. These are working capital loans, fixed expenses, payroll, accounts payable, other bills that cannot be paid because of the impact of this pandemic. They cannot be used, however, to refinance existing debt. They're low interest, long-term, up to $2 million cap. First payment on the loan is deferred for 12 months. Interest rate is fixed at 3.75%, and the maximum term is 30 years. They're open to eligible small business. The eligible small business is any business with less than 500 employees generally, and it includes nonprofits, certain nonprofits. The Economic Injury Disaster Loan Advance, which is part of EIDL, provides up to $10,000 initially, immediately, to be used for payroll and other operating expense. The main purpose behind that advance, and this advance, regardless, does not have to be repaid under any circumstance. But the idea was to get this $10,000 quickly into the hands of those that, much need the capital. To apply for the advance, you must first apply for the EIDL loan and then request the advance when prompted to do so in the application. It's voluntary, but for the most part, folks are seeking it. And on your slide, you have some information there as far as additional information where you can find it, a couple websites, the disaster customer service email, and 1-800 number. Moving on to the Paycheck Protection Program, This particular loan is designed to provide a direct incentive for small businesses to keep their workers on the payroll. SBA will forgive a portion of the loan if all employees are kept on the payroll for 8 weeks or brought back onto the payroll, and the money is used for, obviously, payroll expenses, rent, mortgage interest, or utilities. Not more than 25% of the loan can be used for expenses other than payroll. So while it also is a working capital loan, the main benefit is the 8-week payroll expenses that can be forgiven. Loan payments will also be deferred for 6 months. No collateral or personal guarantees are required, and neither the government nor the lender will charge the small business any fees. Forgiveness is based on the employer maintaining or quickly rehiring employees and maintaining salary levels. Forgiveness will be reduced if full-time headcount declines or if salaries and wages decrease. So what I'm saying there, the amount of the Paycheck Protection Program loan is determined on previous staffing and payroll costs from a year ago, and you take that number, multiply it by 2.5, and that gives you the funding for the PPP this year. When it happens, then you need to either rehire or maintain payrolls. So to the extent you do, that will be forgiven. This loan carries a 2-year maturity and an interest rate of 1%. The most important part about PPP is that it's a lender loan. It's made by lenders. It's not made by SBA. EIDL is a direct SBA funded loan. PPP is through your conventional lenders. So we always ask people to start with their bank of account, who would be familiar with you, have your accounts, and you have a relationship. But if not, you can go to our website and you can find numerous lenders, that list of over 160 that I talked about, and reach out to those if your lender is not participating in the program for whatever reason. Anyone that's already approved for EIDL, your loans are in a queue and will be acted on as soon as that funding is appropriated. PPP, again, you're going to have to contact your bank, make sure that everything's in order. If not, and one question that comes up quite often is that I've made application with my bank and I was shut out because of the lapse in appropriations. But I've come to realize that maybe I have a better opportunity to build a more valued relationship with a different lender. The system itself, the portal for making application for the PPP loan, will only accept one application. So if you had made an application previously that got shut out because of the lapse, you need to be, and you're going to move to a different lender, you need to make sure that first lender doesn't move forward when the funds are appropriated and make an application, because the system will lock it out. So it's very, very, very important that folks are in constant contact with their lenders on the PPP deals to determine the appropriate status. In my office in Baltimore, we have 12 employees. Everybody, like I said, is working very hard and diligently. Our phones are ringing off the hook. They continue to ring off the hook. I anticipate when funding becomes available that it's going to take a little time, and we just ask for patience. We try to get back to everybody as soon as possible. We're doing the best we can with what we have. We do have support partners, federally funded partners in SCORE, America's Counselor to Small Business. These are volunteer business experts, many of which are very, very successful business owners, corporate executives. You can find somebody specializing in accountants. You can find somebody that specializes in automobile repair, shoe sales, any of a number of different. The best thing for you to do is go to score.org and search through the coronavirus site there. You can find a location, and in many instances, you can find rosters of volunteers and pick and choose as far as specific areas of expertise. And they're located, the Greater Baltimore chapter is very strong and very well worth looking into if you're looking for guidance there. But SCORE offices are located throughout the state. We also have the Maryland Small Business Development Center Network. Now, these are paid counselors, many, many previously small business owners, and a wealth of information and guidance and mentoring and that kind of activity. And they likewise are located all over the state. Of course, locations don't really matter right now because adhering to the social distancing requirements, each of our partners are offering online video conferencing by phone. So you just visit SBA.gov. There's another separate website, SBA.gov. You can look under local assistance and find counselors also. That's pretty much what I have for right now. We're looking forward to Congress moving on this bill that's in process. It's at the 2-yard line. We need to get it into the end zone, and then we can start looking at applications on EIDL and continue to work with our lenders to move forward with PPP. So again, thank you, Angie. Appreciate the opportunity. Open it up to questions.
All right, you may reconsider that. So there are so many questions on the chat. So I want to mention to everyone as people are putting in questions in the chat, Steve's right hand, Rachel Howard, is trying to keep up with them. I know the answers are kind of scattered. You ask a question and it's several blocks down. Please, though, do look at that. Rachel's really trying to type as fast as she can. She's putting your name in to say, who she's addressing. So she's trying really hard to do this. So, but while Rachel is answering those, I did get a text question, which requires me to find it. There we go. And so Steve, here's the first question I got. All right, now this is with regards to seasonal business. So Maryland, of course, being high tourist, sports, all of those things, we do have so many seasonal businesses. So in case of seasonal businesses where staff is always reduced, same time each year, 3 admin are always paid, the 75% threshold will be difficult to attain. Is it permissible to pay the 3 in advance to achieve that 75% threshold? The seasonal employees only are employed November through March, 3 staff year round.
Wow, that's a lot of specifics that I'd have to see some of it. But in a general sense, yes, seasonal businesses are eligible.
Okay.
We're talking about Paycheck Protection Program. and I can't speak for the lender. You have to get to the lender. The lender has the rules and regulations and the guidance, all of that. I can tell you seasonal is eligible. I'd have to look at the specifics. It sounded like admin throughout the year
Yes.
and then
That's what it
ramped
looks
up
like.
in a certain period. So
Right.
depending on if we were talking April, May, June through the summer seasonal, we'd have apples and apples to compare with. Previous year would be April, May, June. Current year would be April, May, June as far as the seasonal employees. And then in addition, the year-round admin employees. So this is something that it sounds like, depending on, the seasonality of the business and what periods we're talking about, I would just suggest that you get to your lender and discuss it with them and find out if there's something additional that we might need to look, or I might need to look into. I'd be glad to do so.
All right, thank you.
Hope that's helpful.
Question is that we also see is for small business owners who do not draw a salary and they live off savings. PPP is not an option. Would EIDL, would EIDL help? What help can we have for our business owners who don't draw a salary?
Well, EIDL is a working capital loan. Payroll is, payroll expenses. That's one small portion of it. There may be other items, more rent, lease payments, mortgage interest. There may be other operating expenses that, because of the lack of income, you're having difficulties meeting. So economic injury disaster loan would cover that kind of stuff. It's a working capital loan. So we can define that broadly, or we can define it specifically, but SBA defines it broadly. So if you're looking for funding for whatever purpose to keep your business in operation throughout a certain period, you qualify for an economic injury disaster loan.
Thank you. Let's see, I'm reading questions that were also submitted, not on the chat line, so I apologize for being a little bit slow. Want to make sure I don't ask questions you've already answered. With the PPP loan, with a PPP loan, if a business which has been accepted has current available resources to pay employees and pay rent and other expenses now in the projected coming weeks, but worries they won't have those resources in the future. And I get it. Getting through the first month, a lot of people went, I can get through this. It's June, July, and August. Some of us are worried about. Can we use the PPP loan on the qualifying expenses now and keep the current money in the bank for the future? Or must we turn down the loan?
Well, the PPP loan was, the main intention is to bring back employees or maintain payroll. Some of the specifics is what happens when you apply for a paycheck protection loan through your lender. If you're approved, you've based it on previous payroll records from the previous year. The 8-week forgiveness period starts at the date that your initial disbursement is made from the lender. So say today you apply for a loan. You get your money in 2 weeks. We're into May. So beginning May 4th, we'll just use the date. If that's the date of your first disbursement, or maybe they give the full amount, full final disbursement, the initial funds from the lender to the borrower, that date it's received forward, there's an 8-week period where you can use those proceeds to cover payroll expenses, and the debt will be forgiven. So you can't bank it and 8 weeks from now start using it. First of all, you're going to have a 2-year term to pay it out, which is going to be a very significant burden on your cash flow. But the 8-week forgiveness period, the most attractive part of this deal starts the day you first receive a disbursement from the lender.
All right, thank you. Let's see, we have, okay, for companies that have a mix of employees over and under the $100,000 salary level, would the company have to reduce the pay for the higher compensated employees to be in compliance with the PPP loan?
Any single employee is limited to a $100,000 cap.
Yep.
So if you have somebody at 150,000, you could put them in at 100,000. If you have several at 50,000, you could put them at 50,000. Part of that calculation limits anyone that makes over $100,000 to that amount.
All right. And I'm going to sort of, Rachel, are there any questions that are left in our chat box? Or Steve, would you like to look over the chat box to see if there's anything you haven't addressed? Because I know even at the very first, there was a question, is there any difference between EIDL advance application and the EIDL loan application?
EIDL advance and EIDL, no, you have, when you apply for an EIDL, economic injury disaster loan,
Yeah.
there's an opportunity for you to select up to $10,000 advance. Let me elaborate on that a little bit. The
Okay.
up to $10,000 amount calculates down to $1,000 per employee. So if you're a sole proprietor applying for an EIDL loan and elect that amount, and you are the only employee, then you would be limited to $1,000. If you're a small business and you have 20 employees, you're limited to $10,000 on the advance, and anywhere in between. So in order to get the advance, you do have to apply for the EIDL loan, make the election in the application, and then you would be entitled to that based on number of employees. And it doesn't have to be repaid under any circumstance.
And I'm looking at the chat boxes. I'm sure you and Rachel Howard are both doing as well.
Teresa asks, is there any way someone could tell how many applications a particular bank has processed? Not the amount of the funds, but application. We don't have the numbers, unfortunately. We know who they were that have done them, but and that's that over 160 lenders inside and outside Maryland have made loans in Maryland. So we don't have that data. David asks, how long after Congress approves the second phase will banks be able to submit approved loans and access those funds? I'd have to say immediately. I mean, once the president signs the bill and it makes its rounds, I would say if that all happens, well, we were talking about by the end of the week, but we're there. If that were to happen tomorrow or sometime through the weekend, I would say Monday that application portal should be open.
Wow.
We've got people working 24/7. There's not going to be a lag. Once the funds are available and make it through the appropriate channels, the switch is going to be turned on.
Steve, I'm looking down the list and there's a question. What is considered a utility under PPP?
I don't have a specific answer to that. Utilities to me are gas, electric. Is there a specific utility in mind? Can we get a chat back on that one?
Bruce, are you still on the line? That person may have gone. Already exited. I don't know.
Was that?
Yeah,
Was that?
Yeah, he didn't specify what utility. He just asked the question, and that was Bruce. Clay, do you see?
He answered, Andy.
Oh, okay, got it. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Phones, internet connection.
Phones and internet connections. I'm not scrolling up and down. That's fast enough.
Okay, I can take a couple more. I'm kind of up against another meeting.
Okay. So it looks, Rachel, help me if there's anything that hasn't been, that we could get on before y'all need to hang up. Let's see. I received EIDL grant money, but no communication at all regarding the loan. How do I find out the status of my loan application?
Okay, we provide the information on the slide. You'd have to contact the customer service email or contact them by the 1-800 toll-free number.
Okay.
And we'll get those, everybody can get those slides, right?
Yeah. Well, yes, sir. We'll make sure everybody receives the slides. And just a quick wrap up reminder is all the questions that are in the queue, we will send out to the 3 agencies represented today to make sure we got to all of the questions and give them a chance to provide answers. We'll send out a Q&A that includes all the questions, all the answers, as well as all the resource links that were identified. So we will follow up with everybody to make sure we have everything. And I do know you have another meeting, Steve. I promised that I wouldn't keep you on too long. Unless there's any last question you want to answer, or there's anything you'd like to discuss as a wrap up, we'll be good.
Really quick, sorry to interrupt, but what was the answer to the utility question? Are phones considered a utility or internet connection considered utility?
Thank you, Clay.
Are phones an integral part of the business? I would say it's an operating expense if that's what you use the phones for the business operation.
Got it, thanks.
Internet would be
EID,
same.
Are you talking about EIDL or PPP?
I believe the question was related to PPP.
Okay. So that's the general guidance, but check with your lender. See, they're bank loans. SBA stands behind them. We're assisting them with that 100% guarantee, but they still use their normal credit underwriting criteria and prudent lending practices to make sure that things are proper. In the unlikely event that something were to go not work as it had been and they had to turn to SBA to pay on that guarantee, we will look back through their underwriting and make sure everything was done properly. So they are the ones that are administering the accounts at the front end and ongoing. So they're the ones that you need to convince that your phones are being used for a business purpose.
Perfect.
No, I don't have anything else, Angie. Thank you so much.
Okay.
I hope that was okay and good, and just wish everybody luck. We're all in this together, and we need to come out of it soon.
Well, BBB gives you an A+ rating. How about that? Steve, thank you so much. Rachel, thank you for your help. Everyone, again, we will aggregate the questions. We'll get the answers. We'll send right out to you as quickly as they provide the responses to us. We at BBB do have a business resource center. So visit BBB Greater Maryland, click on the menu. And we also have bbb.org/greater-Maryland. We click on the menu, we have Coronavirus Business Resource Center. In that center, we will have this information, but there are so many links to our state and federal agencies who are attempting to help us. And just remind everyone, please join us next week. We have a couple of really interesting and helpful webinars planned for next week. So please visit us again and participate in our online chats as well. So to everyone, sending great thanks, be safe, and appreciate everyone. Take care.